What is up? It is a mid-December edition of the Splashback podcast. Today, I am joined by my buddy Chris, who was on twice in the past. It's been over a year since he's been on, but every single time he's been on, he and I have chatted all things Marvel. And 2 days ago, Disney had their Investor Day presentations where they announced a lot of projects. Obviously, that would include Marvel, and so with that, I thought it'd be a good time to bring him on. So without further ado, I'm joined by my buddy Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you so much, Matt, for inviting me. And this is some big news. I'm excited to get into it, talk about it a little bit. I have a lot of thoughts that we can get into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy, always happy to have you back on. And so I guess let's just jump right into it. I'm going to start by asking you, like, some of the things that they announced were we had already known about. Some instances we got like first looks, first teasers, trailers. Some things were totally like new. What caught your eye the most of all the gajillion announcements that they dropped?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think what caught my eye most was the Loki series. I knew it was already happening. I was looking forward to it. I think the little first look, I was watching it. I think it's great that they're really leaning into the multiverse. They got Owen Wilson in there now, which I think is a great it's a great casting job already. I hope he sticks around for that. Yeah, I gotta say though, overall, I was excited about most of it. I think the main thought I had was I was worried that when they introduced multiverse in Endgame, that they would ignore it and that they would just proceed with the rest of the MCU. But instead, I think they made the entire MCU about the multiverse and they leaned into that fact like multiple realities. So I hope they don't overdo it, but I'm looking forward to it all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, it appeared. I mean, since given the kind of the parallel reality that was from Endgame regarding Loki, it seems as though they're definitely tapping into that. Um, Regarding, so I guess zoom out a little bigger of the things that like you didn't like the things that were not previously announced. Then, what surprised you, or maybe just are you maybe worried about, or maybe really excited about? Like what's something that really drew some type of reaction out of you?
Okay, so for the things that haven't been announced yet, right? There's like the What If series. Was that announced previously? Because that was
Was.
the first time I heard about it was yesterday. I was looking through the news. Um, the Guardians Christmas special. What was
Yeah, the
that? Was
holiday
that announced? Was
special.
that announced
That was
yesterday?
not that's new to me. And what's also
That's
crazy is that that's not even Guardians 3. Like they're doing Guardians 3 and a holiday special.
But the holiday special is gonna be like a half hour like adventure, will it
That's
not
what I
be?
would think. That's what I would think.
It's gonna be kind of corny, will it not? I'm a little worried about it. I don't know. Are you worried about that at all?
um we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but there are some things I'm definitely worried about. But
I like, well, another thing I'm worried about, like, was Black Panther 2 confirmed yet?
it's been confirmed and they're not recasting T'Challa, which I think is the right decision, honestly. I think that's a respectful way to go about it.
So they can proceed with the filming, or they've already filmed it.
Yeah, no, they're starting filming soon. I'm pretty sure it's going to be about Shuri. Pretty
Oh,
sure they focus on Shuri, which our buddy Kyrie actually came on my podcast and he actually proposed that they go down that route. So he was
really?
right. Yeah, he was on the money. He was on the money. But
I think it makes sense, but I wonder, are they gonna write him out of the story somehow, or are they just gonna like,
I'd imagine you have to acknowledge,
yeah,
in some shape or form, you can't
they,
just not be in there and not have any explanation, even
but
though the audience would understand.
they got to do it a tasteful way, like they did with Fast and Furious 7. With
Yeah,
Paul Walker, they have the musical number with Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth. Like, I want to see something equally as sad, something people can cry to, and just like have them split down that road. I don't know. What do you think they're gonna do with how they're gonna handle that? Besides like just
I,
write it.
I think there's going to be like a funeral scene.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a ceremony or something. You know what would be really cool is if they got like actually, okay, I don't know if this would actually be like that cool, but if they got like a lot of the Marvel cast just to be in like a funeral scene. I don't know. Because the thing is, like, it would definitely be cool if it was just the people of Wakanda.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. Just a thought. Like,
Yeah, they'll do it tastefully. They have to, like,
yeah,
I'm sure. And
yeah.
as sad as it is, like, the, I mean, everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like from what I understood, like knew about his cancer, Chadwick Boseman. So
You
uh,
mean like the higher ups?
yeah, the higher
Yeah.
ups. So it's sad to think like they were already planning to write around it in the future, but like it's like I'm sure they have it handled. Kind of a bummer to start out with here. Let's. What
Yeah.
about you? What are you most surprised, excited about? Like what do you
Well,
think?
yeah. Well, before I answer that, I just wanted to say the What If series is actually Chadwick Boseman's final performance as T'Challa. Like
Okay,
he did record lines for that, so that will be his final appearance in a Marvel property. But
that's good.
what am I most excited about? I mean, so of the stuff that I kind of knew, or the stuff that had already been announced, I definitely was really excited to see the trailer for Falcon and the Winter Soldier
Hmm.
because I just love those characters, man. Like I've always leaned more towards like Captain America, and obviously he's retired from the MCU, but I love Falcon, and over the years, like I definitely have warmed up to Bucky. Initially, no, don't get me wrong. I've never had an issue with him, but he certainly, those first few appearances, I guess specifically in like Winter Soldier, he didn't really speak much, and he was kind of just this brainwashed, like this mind controlled guy, right? So it was
Yeah.
a little harder to like really like love him. Like you certainly felt bad for him, but
Hmm.
Falcon's been cracking jokes and he's been a homie since
Yeah,
like
he's been a homie.
since the moment he showed up and whatnot. So I
Yeah.
certainly am interested to see that. As for like what surprised me, or I guess some of the stuff they didn't announce, like I know that there was like rumors floating around that they might do like a Secret Wars, Secret Invasion type storyline for
Hmm.
the next big MCU movie. So whether that be Avengers 5 or if they rebrand it, whatever, right? But
Hmm.
it looks like that's now like a Disney Plus series with Samuel L. Jackson returning as Nick Fury. So definitely curious to see where that goes because this is the first time where I don't know what they're building towards with the big picture. I'd imagine maybe maybe they're tapping into the multiverse, but like, what is
Yeah.
the next big bad, or even is there a next big bad? Because like we've done Thanos. Like maybe we need to just explore smaller stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of want to rewind a bit and talk about those first points. Like, so I think you made a very good point um, earlier about the. I'm sorry, you mentioned what was it, the villain? I'm already blanking. Oh, you were warming up to Buckeye because he was the villain, but then like
Bucky.
Bucky's. Yeah, you're warming up to Bucky, and I was thinking I just had like a point I wanted to make there. I think if we were to like rewatch it, knowing Bucky becomes like a good guy in the end, or like as we rewatch it, like we kind of warm up to him like
Yeah,
sooner. And I had
yeah.
like a very similar thought because when I first watched Avatar, like that was my thought about Zuko. And I didn't really like his transformation the first time around, but like the second time I was a huge fan of it. And so I think you'll warm up a little bit more.
Oh,
Like he's a good choice.
yeah, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I like Bucky now. Like these days, like he was dope in Infinity War. Had a couple cool moments in Endgame. Obviously, he wasn't the focus of that movie, but I like Sebastian Stan too. Big shout Sebastian
Okay.
Stan. Big
Yeah, that's
shout
fair.
out to Sebastian Stan. Um, so uh, so hang
So were
on.
you asking me about the big bad? Did you ask me about who I thought the big bad would be next?
Well, what I'm asking is like, do we even like this is like the first time we
Do we
don't really
need?
know. We don't really
Yeah.
know, right? And that's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine. Like to me, I'm pretty sure I said this to you a year ago. But I don't know if I ever want there to be an Avengers 5. Not because I don't want there to be another big ensemble movie, but I think that chapter, like that storytelling, I feel like that is like in the past now, and that if they're gonna do a big ensemble and whatnot, they should. I honestly would love for them to just kind of change the name and retire the Avengers mantra. Granted, I know they won't because that's gonna bring people to the theater, but um, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like
Well, I
these,
think
yeah.
I think they can take it in another direction. They still want to make like those billion-dollar blockbusters, right? Of
For
course, like that's
sure,
the
for
goal.
sure.
And I think their aim currently is to do that with Spider-Man. I think they've realized like he is like the most popular of the superheroes, like to the widespread. Like, did you hear like the casting lineup
Yeah,
for?
how much of that is rumored? Because some of it's confirmed, some of it's rumored, and
So
I have thoughts. But
okay, so I was looking this up beforehand. I know that Jamie Foxx is
Jamie
confirmed.
Foxx is back. Yeah,
I know Alfred Molina, the
Doc
original
Ock,
Doc Ock,
Doc Ock. Yep.
confirmed. I know Andrew Garfield, the Spider-Man, is confirmed.
Is he confirmed?
He's
As is
confirmed.
he confirmed as Spider-Man though?
I don't know
Could
if
he
he's confirmed as
couldn't
Spider-Man.
couldn't because like this is me being wishful, but could he not just have like a cameo as like the
That's
cashier at the grocery store?
that's true. That's possible. But I think like Kirsten Dunst is back as Mary Jane as well. I think she signed up, and I'm pretty sure Tobey Maguire and Emma Stone like they are in negotiation. Like Disney, Sony, they want to bring him back in, and
I
I was super
thought.
excited about this. Like I
Really?
thought this was like an MCU like wet dream, like even more so than some of the Avengers. Because I grew up watching Spider-Man more so than following the MCU. Um, but I don't know. We think we talked about this. You're not as excited about it, are you?
So here's my worry. So let me I want to preface this by saying Toby is my OG. Like I never watched any of these comic book films before watching Toby Maguire.
Hmm.
And there were times I really went to bat for Spider-Man too, dude. Like there were times I told people like, "Yo, this is one of the best movies ever," when I was a kid. Anyways,
Same.
it's not that I don't want to see. Like I think it would be cool to see Toby and whatnot. But there's two things. I feel like this is like the and so I part of me wonders if they saw the success of Into the Spider-Verse and were like, we want to do that, but for live action. If that is the case, I have a problem with that because one thing I generally like about Marvel Studios is that like they can take inspiration from places, but they kind of march to their own beat.
Hmm.
Right? So that's number one. The second thing is like, are we doing nostalgia just for nostalgia's sake? Like, are we just bringing everybody back just to bring everybody back, or is there a real like deep? Is there a real meaning and storytelling that we can do with this? Right. So that's the another thing. Another point is that like low key, if they're like, hey, it turns out Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 with Tobey Maguire was actually still Peter Parker, but it was in a parallel universe, like that's just gonna break my brain, dude.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It'd
Um,
be too much if they try to go back and explain that. That's a
yeah.
good point.
And and so it's not that like I dislike the thought of like seeing Toby in an updated Spider-Man movie, but it's like if we're really gonna tap into Tobey Maguire back as Peter Parker, I don't know. Are we doing a little too much? Like,
Yeah, no, it,
could we go in a different direction? I don't know.
you bring up a very good point. That they, for it to work, they're going to have to create a deeper meaning for bringing them back beyond nostalgia's sake. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important point to make. However, it'd still be really cool to watch them all
I'll
together in
don't
a
get me
movie.
wrong. I'll watch it and it will still be like I'll still be like curious to see how they do it. But it's like I really hope it isn't just, hey, this is live action Spider-Verse. Boom.
Yeah.
If it's just that, because I hate to be critical here, but like it's not like I have like super positive sentiment about like Andrew Garfield and even though I love the actor, Jamie Foxx's Electro was not a villain I really gave a shit about,
No,
right?
no,
So
not yet at least. I mean, you
not
could,
yet, right?
yeah, you could do
So
something.
so I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of this stuff is just speculation. Like I saw a rumor that like they're gonna try to bring Daredevil into Spider-Man 3.
I heard about that too.
Yeah, I don't know. At some point, at this point, I'm kind of the only thing that I've really seen like confirmed is Alfred Molina as Doc Ock and then Jamie Foxx as Electro. So
Okay.
we'll
Yeah,
see. But
we will see. Did you notice that the What If animation looked a lot like the Spider-Verse animation?
I hadn't thought about that.
It was like the comic book style, which really
Sure.
works for what they're doing. I think it was very popular, and I think it makes sense to like piggyback. But if they're copying Spider-Verse on that, like who's not to say like they're gonna?
Yeah.
continue to
That
copy and
that's
follow.
that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that, but now that I think about it, like I can certainly see it. Um,
I mean, I love it. I think it's great. Like I'm excited about it. Like I was honestly very happy with the what if uh, first look or second look. I'm not even sure at this point.
I think yeah, that was the first look.
Okay, great.
But I mean, real quick, like so it looks like Black Widow. I'm gonna just kind of go through everything.
Mhm.
We'll go quickly. Some just kind of rapid fire thoughts. Black Widow, nothing really new outside of the fact that they're trying to get it out in theaters, so they're not putting it on Disney Plus. I think that's a solid decision. Like let's not give up on theaters just yet. Yeah.
No, we got to keep them in business somehow, just like a little bit. Just like
Yeah.
the ones we like, the clean ones that like have the rustic feel to them downtown. You don't want like the random ass small theater with like this used to have been replaced in 18 years to still be kicking. I don't know, just my thought.
Yeah. Christian Bale's gonna be in the MCU as a villain for Thor. So
Is
they
yeah, he
so
is.
so they got Batman.
They got back, so it's gonna be Batman versus Thor. Is that
um
that's awesome.
yeah, I mean so it's interesting because so here so I heard Christian Bale in an interview once in where basically he said like he was like and he says this in a Christian Bale British accent, but he's like he basically said like I've never watched any of the Marvel movies. I'm sure they're good, but I'm just it's just not. It was a little bit like kind of what you hear from Christopher Nolan, and then so the fact that he took this role. I don't want to read into things too much, but I wonder if that just means he was like really blown away, which is like very likely. Or if it was just like he was like, "Hey, my kids like these movies. I want to be in one of them." I don't know. I don't even know
Yeah,
if he has kids, honestly.
that's fair. I mean, the cynic in me says he saw the paycheck. He changed his mind about the movies. I mean, but the thing is like Taika is he's an acclaimed director at this point. Like what we do in the shadows is hilarious. One of the best movies. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, he really proved himself in Ragnarok as well. He didn't need to prove himself, but he showed he could like turn around like an MCU like
yeah.
trilogy series. Like I don't know. And I just recently watched The Hunt for the Wilderpeople, also directed by Taika.
Okay,
It's just he's so good, and
he's a funny guy.
I would be surprised if that appeal, like Christian thought, like it'd be fun to work with someone who is like is like that good of a director who's like keeps things funny but like still directs and makes a very interesting product. I think that played a role as well.
Yeah, I mean, um, what's it called? It seems like the MCU, at least for now, with some of these franchises, like the sub franchises, it sounds like they've really found their directors to stick with, right? So like Guardians of the Galaxy, they're sticking with James Gunn, even though there was a little bit of turmoil there for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Thor, they're sticking with Taika, and then Spider-Man, they're sticking with John Watts, and then they're having John Watts, who's directing the first three Spider-Man. He's doing Fantastic Four, which we can talk about in a second, but
Ooh.
they also have Ryan Coogler doing, both Black Panthers. So it's certainly it seems like when they find the directors they really trust, like they're really handing the reins to them, which I think is interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
um, speaking of which, like
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, continue.
yeah, I mean, one thing that I found absolutely crazy was like they just okay. If you look at their assuming nothing changes, if you look at the calendar year of 2021, they're going to release 6 Disney Plus shows and 3 movies. Hang on, not 3 movies, 4 movies.
Wow, really?
I would imagine something's going to get bumped back.
Maybe, but I'm kind of excited for it. It's been a rough year.
Yeah, for sure,
2020.
for sure.
And just some like relaxing, exciting, like feel good or Disney movies like this. I don't know. I feel like it's what 2021 needs. Really be a redemption year for everyone.
Yeah, I mean it's just crazy because I'm looking at the projects and I haven't even mentioned like this Groot series.
Yeah,
I haven't
what
even
is
mentioned I haven't even mentioned that they're bringing back War Machine for his own series. They have Ironheart, whatever that is. Ruffalo's coming back for She-Hulk. Jeremy Renner's obviously doing Hawkeye. Like there's just so much, and obviously I mentioned Secret Invasion earlier. It's just like,
Yeah,
damn, like there is a lot of quantity. What I and I'm curious for what you think about this because for me, when they announced Phase Three, and I recognized that there was going to be this build up to Avengers 3 and 4, um, to me, I was more emotionally invested in seeing that through than I am right now. But what I am really curious about right now is how they're going to deliver on all this content because they're cranking out so much content. They're doing a new platform with Disney Plus, and on top of that, it seems like they're taking a lot of these series and movies. They're very different in terms of the genres and the styles, right? So
Mhm.
I will say like I was more excited to see the conclusion of the Infinity Saga,
Mhm.
but I'm also very curious to see just how they stick this landing because it is like I said so much in quantity.
Yeah. No, very good point. You're right. I was also much more emotionally invested for Avengers 3 and 4. I mean, that was such a big part of college, honestly, was getting excited for those movies. But I I don't know. I mean, we've seen this happen before. Like Disney's just gonna hire every A-list actor that they possibly can. Every person in the world eventually will have a small role in one of the MCU shows or movies. It's kind of where they're headed, and like it's just a little yeah, sad to see like they have like everything planned all the way through like 2023, 2024, like whatever it might be. And they like even if they do deliver, I don't know. It just might be too much to be excited about for too long. Like I don't.
Yeah,
The same thing. They're doing that for Star Wars now. They like milked out another trilogy. Mandalorian was a big success. People like that, so they're like, oh, let's just release like six more Star Wars related shows, which could be very good. But, like when is too much? Like
yeah,
we're gonna hit that mark where like, oh, this is too much. We need to like be a little bit more tasteful. And
that's the thing, right? Like
yeah.
I have trust in Marvel Studios because they have not let me down this far. Like they have not produced something that I was like that where I was like, all right, that was terrible. Like get this out of my face, right?
Mhm.
Um, the more and more they do this and the more frequently they do it, unless they really, continue to just really spin the wheel every time, like at some point you would think that you're gonna have a flop at some point. And I'm not rooting for it because at the end of the day, if these are all fucking amazing, like I'm happy. But
Sure.
but just realistically speaking, it's like what like you said, what is that breaking point?
Yeah, and
Is
it's
it is it
interesting.
coming up now or is it in 10 years from now? Like who
No,
knows, right?
and it's hard because a lot of this is formulaic. They know exactly how to write these shows to get people excited about them, and they can throw in just enough turns and twists to make it believable, but still like surprise you. And if you stick with a formula that's so well tested for too long, like it, people are gonna pick up on it, right? Like, or am I
Sure.
giving General Public too much credit here? I can't tell. Like, will people just never like notice that it's the same thing, just with a different color, different skin, like every single time, like a different texture pack on a movie? Because it seems like there's a lot of like common themes
there
here. I don't.
there is a common theme and tone, but at the same time, what I at least liked about Phase 3 was that like Ragnarok is like so different from Black Panther, which was also very different from like Spider-Man Homecoming, right? And then
Yeah,
like Infinity War and Endgame are different, right?
amazing. They're so amazing.
They're different. They don't quite have, even they have a different feel from like a Civil War, which is directed by the Russos as well. So I don't know. Like no, I hear you. Like, there's definitely a common thread, right? That you're gonna get your humor. You're gonna have some cool action sets. You're gonna have some great acting. You're not gonna see too. You're gonna see like a nice, bright, well shot color palette, things like that. But there is like enough differentiation, like movie to movie, character to character. Now, my question is just like, do we at some point just kind of catch on, get bored, not get impressed with the subtle differentiation. I don't know.
Like, how many characters can we really fall in love with here? Like, you said, like, yeah, like Bucky, like you're kind of, hey, is like cool.
Bucky's
Like,
dope.
he's cool. He's
Bucky's
cool.
cool. Bucky
Like
cool.
Falcon, but like it's not Cap. It's not Iron Man, you know?
Are we just getting old? Is the question.
Yeah, it sounds like we're just getting
Are
old.
we just getting old? Here's
We're
here's the
growing
thing.
out of it might be the thing. This is not, yeah, that's
Here's the thing, dude. There are still some characters I really care about, and I think you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Hawkeye,
Yeah, I still care
Black
about
Widow.
Hawkeye. Yeah, Black Widow, but she's kind of dead. I mean, she
But
is.
I mean,
But
you're gonna watch the movie,
sure.
and
Oh, I'm
I'm
gonna
sure you're
watch.
gonna like it.
I'll
It
put
looks
it this way:
good.
I'm gonna watch these movies until they give me a reason not to. I'm gonna watch these movies, all these shows until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah,
But
like might as well, right?
yeah, but the thing is, like, what if I watch She-Hulk and like I like Bruce Banner, but She-Hulk, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care if I don't see her again. Like, I'm not saying I'm not rooting for this. I'm just saying, like,
For
hypothetically, like,
sure.
what if this happens, right?
Yeah,
At
exactly.
some point, you would think that there might be that point. I don't know. That's what worries me. Here's the thing. That's what worries me about Spider-Man 3 to tie this back to an earlier point. That's what worries me about Spider-Man 3 because what if Spider-Man 3 is just trying to dig into nostalgia and I'm like I don't want like I'm trying to see something new,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I get that. I mean, they have plenty of new stuff coming out, to be fair to them. But yeah, you're
They
right.
really do. Like I don't even know what the hell Ironheart is about. Like I
I
know the basic I read the sentence that they put out, but like I don't I, I I don't even know the character's name, right? Because
yeah,
I didn't read the comic books, right? So
yeah, I don't know either. I'm sure we can look it up though. I'm sure everyone else knows. It could be Morgan. I don't know.
I don't think it's Morgan. I think
No.
it's yeah. I did. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we'll see, but
Yeah, so I mean, then again, I mean, you talk about like all these new characters, can you really fall in love with them? And I mean, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, I remember thinking like that looks dumb. I'm not gonna
oh, I thought
watch
the
that.
exact same thing.
I was like, that's stupid. I've never heard of these guys. And then like reluctantly, like a year and a half later, I watched it and I listened to nothing but the Guardian soundtrack for like a month straight.
Yeah,
Like this is like
they do have a way about doing that. Like
this is
people
my life.
thought I thought Ant Man was gonna be stupid, and
Yeah,
like
and
I enjoyed Ant Man,
it
and
was Ant-Man's
you know,
cool.
so
Yeah. I
yeah,
think if they
I
get
don't
like
know.
characters, I mean, they have to like get really likable people in on the main actors and let their personalities bleed into their roles. Like they discovered that with Iron Man. They discovered that letting Chris Hemsworth do that with Thor. I think if they get like John Krasinski for Mr. Fantastic, I
Fantastic,
know that
yeah.
there's a lot of rumors about that. Like, I feel like it'd be pretty easy to get involved in with that franchise as well. There, like if there's still people I want to watch.
Yeah,
And
I mean they got Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, and I know nothing about Moon Knight, but apparently he's a little bit like the Batman's or the MCU's the Marvel's Batman a little bit.
ooh,
So
that
we'll
sounds
see.
cool.
I like Oscar Isaac, like he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's cool. Cool dude.
But you know what's interesting, or sorry, I should say it's crazy. We've spoken for almost 30 minutes, and yet we haven't even talked about the first thing that's coming out, which is coming out like in a month, and that's WandaVision,
WandaVision.
which
Yes.
I have no idea what to make of it because like the trailers give like a sitcom vibe, and I feel like it's just gonna be very you quirky and unique. But I'm curious, like you talk about like, oh, are they following a formula too much? It to me, if you ask me, it seems like WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and What If are all like they're all on different parts of the map.
Yeah, they're very unique. That's a good point. I think I got a slightly different impression from WandaVision. I think the quirky sitcom vibe will last a few episodes, and I think they'll go away from that soon. And like they'll still like keep the multiverse very much tied into the way the show is made, but I don't think like the 50s, 60s, 70s
I think
like
they're going decade
sitcoms.
by decade.
I
If I had to guess, if I had to
I
guess,
feel because like I just felt like it's gonna like start off. I feel like it's gonna be like 50s Wanda, and then they're just gonna kind of like like something happens now it's like 70s, and like maybe the second episode like they break from the TV series structure entirely. That's kind of my guess based on like the amount of action that's happening in the trailer. I'm like they can't just like do a
yeah,
TV series the whole time.
that's true.
But maybe I'm completely wrong. I mean, it is WandaVision. Like the whole thing is supposed to. I don't know. That's just my
What
take.
so
Still
so
excited
what
about it.
so what vibe did you get from Loki? Like what type of if you were to categorize some type of genre? Because I heard an interesting.
Categorize a genre there. Uh, it's for me. It seems like they're. It's going to be like prison escape, kind
Yeah,
of.
I was gonna say it's the Kevin Feige described it as a crime thriller, and if like that prison break crime, what the heck is going on? Madness. I could certainly see that. It's very fitting for Loki.
That would be cool. I would love like a thriller like that in the MCU.
Yeah.
And I think
And
like
then
Loki's the character to deliver it.
I'll say this. It seems like Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier are a little more intact with the more traditional get your action, you get your story, you get the characters you care about. Those ones I don't see you bend too much, but it seems like they're taking big swings. Now, we don't know if they're going to land those swings. Like I
Mhm.
said, everything has a breaking point, but
Yeah.
um, we'll see. It's just crazy to me. Like we could talk literally for hours and still not even touch upon so many of these announcements. You know what I mean?
You're right. You're right. We'll just do
But
another episode next week.
WandaVision might be a good time to have you back in a month
Yeah.
or so.
I'd be happy to come back and talk about it.
One last question before we kind of wrap this up. There's 6 Infinity Stones, right? Let's say you had a gauntlet, but instead it's just of these future shows and movies. What's your lineup of 6?
My lineup for the six, absolutely Loki. What if? Give me Spider-Man 3 all day. I'll take that easily. Those are my top three. I think Thor, Love and Thunder. I think WandaVision. And the sixth one, it's a tough one. Maybe like a Guardians 3, I think in the future. I'm still hanging on to the original cast that we have there, all the characters I love. But things might change. I might learn a lot. I might find some new characters like Shang-Chi seems pretty cool. I don't know anything about that guy at all. Like we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
What about
Cool.
you? What do you got?
Gosh, it's hard because every time I land on 6, I'm like, oh, but then I gotta get rid of that.
Yeah.
So, so it's tough. The one things I will say is if I'm looking solely at the Disney Plus shows, to me the ones I'm most excited for are Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye. And then if it's like a character that we haven't met already, I go Moon Knight. Um, yeah. And then for the movies, dude, it's tough, man. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough regardless of just to cut it down to 6. I don't know, dude. At this point, like
No, you're
I feel like it just depends on the day that you catch me. Some
yeah,
days some days I might have Thor, some days I might have Doctor Strange too. I don't know. Some
yeah.
days it might be Shang-Chi, Black Widow. I don't know, dude.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it. You were getting smarter with it than I was. You had like each category of like new show, new character, recurring movie, like
Yeah.
sequel. That's smarter. But my question for you before we go, if you had to snap away one of these shows,
Um oh, that's a great question. I'm going to snap away. Oh, good question. I think there's an answer that people want me to say, but I'm not a hater. Um,
not a
you know
hater.
what? I'm gonna snap away. God, that is tough.
What's the answer that
Oh, this is
you
easy.
wanted?
I'm
Oh,
snapping. I'm snapping away. I am Groot, and here's why. It's a series of shorts, so I'm snapping away the least amount of content, and it's also Groot, where Groot's cool and all, but it's not like I like lose my mind over Groot.
yeah, that's fair.
What
I
about
think
you?
like the I am Groot, they're trying to really lean into the big Yoda like obsession. Oh, super cute character. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll do, like all ages of Groot, but for me, it's harder. The ones for in 2021, I think are like easier to narrow it down to first because I know more about them. Of that set, I'm going to limit my own question here, but of that set, I'd snap away Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think I'd have to. Yeah, I said it. There it is. Hot take.
Wow.
People are going to hate on it. I don't care. It's all right. I just didn't get as much into the Captain America side of things as other people did, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
fine.
it's because
It's
it's
fine.
because you a Tony Stark guy.
I'm a Tony Stark guy,
I'm
and you're a
joking.
Cap
I'm
guy.
half joking. I'm
You're
half joking. I'm
you're
half joking.
still in my phone. You are Cap. That's all you are with the shield as the photo. And now
uh,
he's Matt. This is
uh, anyway, well, since you showed some disrespect to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm gonna have to snap you off my podcast now. I'm kidding. Anyways, I think that's a good stopping point, though.
yeah,
But
I'm out of here.
yeah, no, thanks for joining me today, Chris. I'll certainly have you back on soon, and we'll chat a lot, obviously. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you. Have a good one.
And to the listeners, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe on whatever medium you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or YouTube. Once again, thanks for listening, and thank you, Chris, for joining me.